Okay guys, so I'm here with JB and he is gonna go over 3 leadership skills that you can use to transfer over to business. But first, I want to know, and I want you to know a little bit more about JB, as he did 26 years in the Army and I think knows a thing or two about true leadership qualities and skills. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Thanks, Felicia. Thanks for having me. JB Spisso, middle-class kid from Pittsburgh, PA. Joined the military to pay for college, and it worked out for me.
Same.
Was fortunate to serve in the 75th Ranger Regiment, also instructor at West Point. And every single time I was promoted, I went to another leadership school, and I learned leadership, and fortunate to be a sergeant major, and I try to impart those leadership skills on the young men and women that were serving under me.
And that's, I mean, the military is all about that rank, structure, leadership. I'm sure you, as well as myself, kind of always found yourself almost naturally falling into maybe some of those, you know, brackets where you had people below you. I know that you were an Army Ranger. So if we had to try and boil down, and I know that you've got a ton of things in your book, but if you had to try and boil down 3 leadership skills or qualities, should I say, that would transfer over to business, the real world, when you get out and you're not wearing the uniform anymore, and now we're civvies, right? What would those be?
Well, the first thing is you need to be genuine and authentic in your leadership style.
Yeah.
For me, I'm a motivator. I like people to follow me and push forward. So that has to be authentic to you. And if that's not your style, you're a little more stoic, that's fine too. So find the leadership style that works for you.
Yeah.
The second one is, and we talk about it a lot in the military and in business, lead by example.
Yes.
There are times it doesn't matter what you're wearing, you do it, you roll your sleeves up, you dig right in.
How are you going to gain respect if you're not in there doing it with them,
you
right?
You have to do it. You know, you have to be in the suck, they say sometimes.
Absolutely.
Right? And the third thing is don't be afraid of failure. Don't fear those tasks. And if you make a mistake, stand up and, you know, do the JFK moment.
Yeah.
Hey, we made a mistake.
Yeah.
And then push yourself forward. And that shows that true genuinism about yourself.
Yeah. Okay, JB, I actually want to go back to number 2, the lead by example.
Sure.
I know with 26 years of service, there's got to be a story somewhere in there where you led by example and then maybe took a moment to look back and say, did that work? Did it not work? Could you give us an example of that?
Sure. Well, you know, when I worked at West Point, you know, I was in the Ranger Regiment for a decade. I get this assignment to work at the Military Academy at West Point, and now I'm leading the West Point scuba team. And I didn't come from a scuba background, and now I'm leading all these, you know, highly motivated men and women, you know, high EQ, high IQ, and we went on these scuba missions, and I knew that I had to be the first one in the water and the last one off. And there were days I was like, I'm not sure if I'm really up to this, but there are people that believe in you, that look to you. And then sometimes just taking that step through fear shows you that you can actually do it. Then you're like, okay, I can actually do this.
Yes.
So there were times that I want to tell people that if you feel like you're not up to leading, just get out there and do it.
Right.
And the old adage, you know, from the military, follow me.
Yeah.
You're not sure, you're running in that direction, people will follow you, and figure the rest out when you get there.
I love that. And I have a little example of my own, because while you're talking, you know, I'm paralleling. Obviously, I have an Air Force career behind me, you have an Army career behind you, and you were just talking about something where you didn't have all the skill in the room. You weren't the most skilled scuba diver, but you had to run out there and lead the guys. And I have one very similar that I'm going to plug in really fast. When I was in the Air Force, I had to teach, one of my jobs was teaching men and women, primarily men, how to land planes without engines. But I wasn't a pilot. I wasn't a pilot. And at that time, I was 24, 25 years old, and I'd walk into a room filled with pilots who had years of flight experience, and the look on their face initially was always like, who is this chick gonna teach us how to land a plane with no engine? And I was not a pilot. But I knew that. I knew how to teach how to land a plane without, I knew how to teach energy management. I know how to teach key positions. I knew how to do all of that. And because of that, I would gain their respect. And I think the reason why I gained their respect was I know, and I would give this to them all the time, I know I'm not as versed with aircrafts that you are. I know I don't have all your experience, but I can teach you this. I can teach you this. And I would go in there with that kind of confidence for that and humility. And by that, you actually gained their respect.
You know, there's something about that you said that I like. It's about humility. And, you know, the body and the mind they like that quietness in the spirit. So even though when we're out doing something, we're motivated about it, we're moving forward, you want to keep that quietness in your spirit. Because I used to always tell the great young men and women that were getting ready to graduate West Point, be a great Army officers out there, I said, never bring chaos, bring calm to the chaos, because there's enough out there, whether it's business or the battlefield.
Or bullets or everything else.
There's enough chaos, bring calm to the chaos.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, now I want to go back to your third point, which was not to be afraid of failure.
Sure.
My husband's got a great line that he tells our boys, and it's always fail forward. So boys, you're going to fail in life, just fail forward. So can you hit on that a little bit?
Sure. I think that when you don't take that step through fear, that fear of failure, and if you fail, then at least you tried. You gave it away, and you would rather have people that are pushing through the fog. You can stand back, you can take it easy, but then you can say, you know what? I can push myself through that. So many times, I love what your husband says, it's just take a step forward. That's what he's teaching your boys. He's teaching them to move forward. And if you fail that way. So I think it's important to not be afraid of that. And you're going to make mistakes. And if you make a mistake, be like, look, my bad. And you can't believe how many people will respect you even more when you say, look, I made a mistake. I will do better.
Yeah, that book, Extreme Ownership, comes into play when you're saying things like that, which I find myself on the business aspect, because this is a lot about leadership skills and qualities, and then transferring over to the business side. There are many a times where maybe somebody on my team messed something up, but I would never pick up a phone and be like, oh yeah, my agent, Colleen messed that one up. I would never say that. Hey, we messed that up. I'm going to fix that and get over to you shortly.
So when you talk about, defending others under your charge, the man that wrote the foreword to my book, Lieutenant Colonel Hank Kersey, he is a West Point legend. He's an airborne ranger, a legend in the military paratrooping community. And at West Point, he never would say it's that lieutenant's fault or that captain's fault or that cadet's fault or that sergeant's fault. He always stood up for every single one of his men and women, even if it was a detriment to his own personal career. And I learned so much about that, because there's so much to be said about standing up for others. And when we do that as leaders, whether in business or the military, then you show that great side of yourself.
And you gain respect. I mean, who isn't going to respect somebody who's going to go, no, this isn't his fault. This is my fault. The way I look at it in business is, my business brand is the Rexford Group. That's the business brand. And if people are working underneath me and something gets messed up, it's really me and it's my brand, right? So it's me that should be picking up the phone and making those apologies and making those corrections, and then behind closed doors, having the team in front and saying, hey, we messed this up. Again, I don't even need to highlight. How are we going to learn? How are we going to move forward? How are we going to be better from it? But I think when you walk out of the room, you gain the respect of the players on the team. You get attrition. You get people that want to stick with you longer. They want to stay with you longer throughout life and succeed with you. And I love that Extreme Ownership book. I mean, the title really encapsulates the whole book. XYZ, this person can mess up. Guess what? It's your fault. It's put a mirror in front of your face, and how could you be teaching better? How can we be getting better? Things like that. I love it.
Except it was written by the Navy SEALs, and we're getting ready for Army Navy week, so
okay.
Go Army, beat Navy. No, I'm just on.
Okay, got it.
on that a bit. And I just think it's so important that people understand when they're being a leader. If you continue to be authentic to yourself and who you are. And what I love what you said was, I take the blame for it for the group, but then behind closed doors, we're going to talk about it and how we can become better, because that's what it's about. And what I like what you said is it goes down to people don't always want to hear the truth, but they tend to trust those that deal in it. And when you deal in the truth with your people, they will trust you. Even if they don't really want to hear that truth, they take that truth. And that's why the best coaches, the best leaders, the best business people, they deal in the truth. They deal in transparency. They deal in integrity.
I love it. Well, I think that we could probably do this video times 20, and I think we should. We should do some kind of leadership, class or what have you. But there's 3 things that if you have a team of any sort, whether it's business, whatever it is, a team of anybody, I think that you can even use this, honestly, even in parenting. I mean, 100%. You can use this in parenting or what have you, but how are you going to transfer that over maybe into your secondary life? And again, one more book plug, J.B. Spizzo's Warrior Leadership. Check it out and stay tuned for more with J.B. Spizzo.
Thanks for having me.